Don't stop.
Hi, thanks so much for joining me on the Everything and Anything in a Big Gay podcast. I'm Zach Randall-Freeman, the host of this amazing podcast. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to tell you about my guest today in a few moments. But before I do, I was actually going through like the inventory of people that I have had conversations with over the past 2.5 years. I have done 250 plus episodes so far for this podcast. It's really crazy how many people I've met. And some of these people I clearly remember who I interviewed and what they were about. And I love their interviews so much. And then as I've been thinking about this over the past week or so, I got an email from this podcasting hosting company or advertising company that's like, your old episodes are so valuable, like use them. And then I started thinking like, yeah, like, you know, some of these, I see these podcasters taking snippets, like 20 minutes of an hour interview and posting the best of, like almost doing like a best of, like Howard Stern does best of, where he brings out some of his old guests. And there's some guests that I really would want to either interview again, possibly, or just resurface their stories because I didn't have as many listeners back then. Because some of these people were just so amazing. And I just feel like I didn't have, you know, when you start out your podcast, you have a smaller audience. And now I just think my audience would just so much, they would appreciate some of these people that I have interviewed in the past. And there's just so many people that I respect that have changed the way that I think about things. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe I got to listen. I got to actually have a conversation with this person. And yeah, there's all these different people that I want to resurface somehow. So I've got to think about that. Maybe that's something I'll do in the fall, where I'll do a best of. Once a week, I bring back a podcast guest that happened earlier in my podcast show and bring them back and do a replay or put together like some clips of guests that talk about similar things. I don't know, like I think there's lots of things I could do because some of these people I have so much respect for, and again, they just change the way I think about the world and about things and about people, and I wanted to be friends with some of them, and so I would just love to help promote them. Need to talk with them, again, to see if there's anything they want to promote, because I'm putting in their episode out again. I'd love to see if there's anything they'd want to talk about. Maybe they'd want to come in and do a little quick 15-minute talk with me to tell me what they're up to now, and then I play their old episode. So lots of possibilities with podcasts. But today's one of my guests that I pretty much just described her because she's somebody I thought was so unique and so amazing. The way she thinks about things, just her talents that she had discovered and the things that she can do, and her medium and psychic abilities. And she describes what that means and what, the difference between what a psychic is and a medium is. And we get into some really deep topics. And I just remember there was a point in the interview where I was just like looking at her and listening to her talk. I'm like, I could do this for hours with her. Like she's just so entertaining. I think she's so interesting. I think she's so fascinating. And yeah, I got to do a part 2 with her. So I'll let you know when that comes out. Her and I have talked about it a little bit, and I need to reach out and actually get that scheduled because I just thought she was just super fascinating, and I love talking with her. So enjoy my episode with Doreen Mary Bray. Thanks so much. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me on the Everything and Anything in a Bit Gay podcast. Today, I have a guest that you have not met yet. Her name is Doreen Mary Bray. Am I saying your last name correctly?
That's right.
Nice to meet you, and I'm so happy to have you on because you have such an interesting background, and I think this is going to be an incredibly interesting conversation. So thanks for joining.
My pleasure.
So I'll just kind of start it off and let everybody know what your background is, but you've been communicating with spirits since you've been a child. Is that correct?
Since the day I was born, pretty well.
Oh, wow. So tell me what you remember first, what was the first memory you have of kind of, and what was that experience like?
I remember being born. So that is my first memory in this physical realm. I was sitting in the corner above the delivery room watching everything occur. I also experienced my father, which was in another part of the hospital. So, in a sense, I was everywhere in that moment. I remember being tugged into my body, which only occurred when the doctor said, "It's a girl."
Oh, yeah.
But that I also remember spirits, we'll call it that, presence in the room,
Mhm.
birth. So that's the first memory, which is like as good as you can get, I guess.
Yeah. And when did you tell, like, I don't know, your parents that you felt these things were happening and stuff? Like, and what was their reaction?
That's a good question. But when I was 2 weeks old, I was put into foster care.
Okay.
So my parents only showed up later in my life when I was 7.
Okay.
And the person who ran the center had many children. And she, because I was there since a baby, she just let me be how I was. She never interfered. I was different than the other children. All the other kids would be running off playing, and I would be trying to put my hand through a wall to see if I could move my molecular structure to
Yeah.
be able to do those things. And when something did occur that was out of the ordinary, I would run and go, "Oh, this happened, this happened." And she'd go, "Oh, that's nice, dear." And that was always her response.
So did she just think you were just being a kid with an imagination at that point, probably?
She was very encouraging.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I believe that she knew that there was something unique about me, and she just allowed me to be that.
That is, I mean, you're very lucky because, if it would have been anybody else and they would have, said, no, stop it, don't talk about this, then you could have possibly even lost this gift or just not paid any attention to it. And it could have, yeah, I mean, it could have been a whole different scenario, obviously.
Definitely.
And we'll be right back. Okay, and now back to the show. At what point did you kind of realize, though, that what you had wasn't really going to go away, that this is part of what your life's work was going to be?
I didn't realize I was any different than anyone else up until I started attending school. And then, kids are very critical and abusive to anyone
Yes.
who doesn't fit.
Mm-hmm.
So it was only then that I realized that I would have to modify my behavior to fit into society. And that in itself was a journey.
Yeah. I mean, kids are bullies. They're so mean, I think. So I just, I've interviewed so many people that have had similar experiences where other children just didn't accept them and stuff. And I just don't totally, yeah, it's sad. You wear a lot of different hats, right? So you're a professor, you're a therapist, you're a mystical guide, you're a spirit communicator. What part of that do you feel that you love the most? Or is it kind of all those skills that you have or all those things that you've learned that is part of kind of that you want to do for the mission of your life?
I'm more soul than I am in physicality. So
Okay.
I'm deeply rooted into an alternate experience of physicality. So I would say everything springs up from that. I wanted to understand my experiences. So this is why I studied herbology and all of the different means of learning about this world that we live in. And also because I could always see energy, patterns around people, in people, ghost spirits, angels, all of that. I wanted to be able to somehow be able to identify if I saw energy blockages in a person. I wanted to be able to not just say, "Oh, you have an energy block." I wanted to be able to give answers what was according to modern medicine or how it could be treated through herbal use or movement or meditation, natural, ways of experiencing their body. So everything else was added on to the depth of what I already was.
Can you tell me a little bit about like whenever you see a spirit or a ghost or a soul, what is that like? Can you give some details? Because I think it's so fascinating.
I remember my mom was born in New Brunswick, and I remember taking a trip there with her. When I was 14, my dad would just throw the keys at me and say, drive her where she wants to go. I mean, we're in the woods, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, and my mom wanted to see the house that she was born in, or she wanted me to see it. And so we went there, and it was just a shack, no windows, no doors, everything tattered. The roof had already fallen in. And I looked and I realized it was full of spirits. But my mom was very, very nervous there. So we moved down the field a bit to pick blueberries. That's what you do when you're in New. And all of a sudden she started to scream, Doreen, we have to get in the car. I can't stand this. There's too much energy here. My mom couldn't see, but she could feel. So we got in the car and I started to drive past the house, and I put the brakes on because I saw this woman standing in the doorway, and she was translucent, and she had long hair, and one of those gathered at the waist dress, long dress. She had a baby in her arm. Another one, she was holding the hand. There was two elderly people behind her and another kid, maybe 10, 12 years old. And I said to my mom, oh, I think that's my grandmother. And my mom, of course, started screaming.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, she's coming towards the car. She's trying to tell me something. So I put down the window and I'm leaning toward the spirit that's coming towards me, because to me, it's my grandmother. I want to hear what she has to say.
Yeah.
And coming right up to the window, and I'm stretching like this, and she's about to say something. And my mom is like hysterical. She puts her foot over from the passenger side onto the gas. I only had my foot on the brake. The car starts going like this and sped off. So for me, it was only, by the way, my mom was adopted, so she didn't know her real mom. So after she went to her older sister who remembered their mother, and she said, what did she look like? Like, she was curious if what I saw was my grandmother. And the way my aunt described her was exact. And apparently she gave birth and died giving birth. So that was the baby in her arm. The one that hand she was holding, they had lost a child, like I think he was 4 years old, something like that. And she had described a brother that she lost later on in life. He was 14 or 15. And the old couple, while they lived in that house, and her mother was taking care of them in exchange for eventually getting that house and land. So everything I had experienced was part of her family.
Interesting. I mean, I don't know. It's really interesting. Have you had any contact with her before? Or do you think if you went back to that house, you'd be able to have contact with her again?
I suspect, except apparently that house isn't there anymore.
Okay.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah. So interesting. I mean,
just to back up a bit, I do believe that spirits that are earthbound remain even when the building's not there. They, the ground is what holds the essence of who they are. But I'm hoping that experience she had with me somehow freed her.
Yeah. So I have a question about that. So, and maybe just educate me a little bit. So there's souls, and I feel like souls are not the spirits or ghosts that are here on the earth anymore. They've transformed into wherever they go as souls, and ghosts are on the earth still, or spirits, and they're here for maybe there's a reason that they haven't left. What's your understanding of it?
Yeah. So a soul is something that's embodied. So you have a soul because you have a body. That's what we call it, a soul.
Okay.
When you no longer have a body, now we call it a spirit because it's bodiless. A spirit that cannot let go of its life for whatever reason. Like in my grandmother's case, I mean, she she had 14 kids altogether. So she left a lot of kids alone, and they were extremely poor at the time. So I'm sure that she had this feeling that everything wasn't okay. And so she stayed earthbound, perhaps maybe to meet me, to say, you know what, it's okay. Like, we're all okay. And you can move on. Sometimes soldiers, like wherever there's major wars in the past, a lot of times those soldiers are still in the land where they died because they haven't resolved, their feelings or emotions. Perhaps, there were things that they needed to say or do, or so that would be a ghost. A ghost is somebody that's earthbound, that hasn't resolved what they needed to while they were in physical form. When they release, for whatever method is chosen, because sometimes they need help to cross over at that point, then they become once again free and, I believe, angelic, what we call an angel, and then they can reincarnate or not.
And can you turn this off? Like, if you wanted to not see anybody, you want to be alone, not see ghosts or spirits or anything, are you able to say, not today?
When I was 12 years old, my mom took me to a mall, and, I hate shopping. So I would just sit in the mall and watch people while she did her thing. And all of a sudden that turned on. The that I'm referring to is every person that walked by me, I knew everything about them in that instant. Their fears, their pain, their suffering, their anger, everything, their whole life story. It's like a song, but within the song is all the emotions of who they are. And it was seriously overwhelming. I went to priests, I went to rabbis, I went to shamans, I went everywhere I was hoping that they could teach me, first what was happening and how to turn it off and maybe on if I wanted it on again. But they could help me with it, probably because they weren't having that experience. So, of course, you can't teach somebody something you've never done yourself, right?
Yeah.
You have to have the practice to know. Eventually, I did learn how to modify it. I can't fully turn it off, but I can dim the lights.
So, like, if you're going to bed at night, can you tell them? Because I've spoken to other people that have similar, gifts like you do, and they said that they will tell them, don't come into my bedroom. You can be anywhere else you want, but stay out of my bedroom. That's my kind of sacred place. Do you do something like that as well?
I create a space that I live in that only high frequency beings would be comfortable. So I need to suggest anything before sleep or worry about those things.
And are you able to kind of, so like your grandmother, she had 14 children and she was maybe here to make sure that they were all doing okay. Are you able to help kind of release them if they would like to go to the next phase?
Yeah, I have a company. It's called Ghost Busting International, and that's basically what we do. We go into hauntings, places where souls are trapped. And yes, there's a series of things that can be done. You first have to figure out what kind of soul it is or being that it is. Some are angry, some are peaceful. So their energy dictates how you would go about releasing them. Also, some are there because of maybe witchcraft or curses. That would be a different method. But yes, definitely can help any energies that are seeking release.
And if you come into an energy that doesn't want to be released, they don't want to be freed, they're kind of resisting, what do you do then? How do you handle that?
With peace. At one time, I did exorcisms for many, many years. And I remember this time where it was a native, lived in a native ground, but he was, I guess, like a lot of natives, lost. And He drank a lot. And I suspect that's what drew the negative energies to him, demonic energies to him. There were times when he would be in a stadium and all of a sudden something would pull him from the chest and he would actually float in the air and then it would drop him. So it was a serious possession. And I remember going to his home because you want to go where the most disturbances is. And when you went in the bathroom, the tiles would be moving and shifting and the floors. And it was like pretty cool. See, I think of those things as cool. So I remember sitting next to him and putting my hand on him and looking into his eyes and saying, I'm here to help. And he looked at me in his possessed state. And he said, I'm going to, tear you from limb to limb. I'm going to eat your flesh, this kind of demonic stuff that's normally. Yeah. And I kept my hand on his hand and I said, I'm not worried. You're fine. I'm not scared of you. Say whatever you want. It's okay. And I believe because I don't have fear.
Yeah.
I was able to release this energy from this person. And he stayed that way. I checked in like 8 years later, even, and he was still fine. So, yeah, there you go. Anything is possible, even stuff that doesn't want to leave.
Okay, that's interesting. So can you maybe tell me like what was one of the most profound, memorable experiences that you've had? Something that you still would, like, whether you were scared of it or you thought it was just completely amazing or shocking or just the most unique experience that you've had that you can remember?
Experiences that strike me the most are ones that happen involuntarily, not where I try to create it. It just occurs. And there was 3 different times that I had these meditation groups, and I went to school at the time. And when people would begin to meditate, they would not be able to stay focused for more than a few minutes.
Yeah.
That's normal. And probably I'd say after a year or 2 in classes, because it was a 5-year program, they would, like after an hour meditation, they'd come back and they go, hey, that was only 5 minutes. What's going on? Because now they enter a place of no time, no space. But as they advance, so a teacher's energy is here, a student's is here. My job is to lift them, which means I have to keep lifting my frequencies to lift them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there was 3 different times where, so reality is here, a slice of reality, but reality is this. We know that already. Our frequencies are very minimal compared to the interdimensional of creation. So 3 different times I bumped outside of that slice where 1 minute I'm in the chair, I'm guiding a meditation, and the next second I feel myself departicleizing.
Oh.
Then traveling 1 trillion miles an hour, like just light dots. And then like this one time, all of a sudden I'm sitting in the body of a man. I'm Jewish. I have a beard. I have a kappa. I'm sitting around a round table full of Jewish men. They all kind of look the same, the long beard and little kappa.
Yeah.
And I just stopped for a second and I looked around and whoa. And then I started speaking Hebrew. I don't know Hebrew, but I knew what I was saying. They were all like, yeah. And I was teaching spiritual stuff. It made sense to me. I didn't feel disconnected in any way. I was this person now, I'd say for maybe 20 minutes. And then all of a sudden I thought, I'm supposed to be somewhere else. But where am I supposed to be? And then I realized, oh my God, I left my students in the classroom. In my mind, I abandoned them. So I thought, well, where are they? How do I get back? Where am I? Right? Like all of these questions start. So I thought, okay, how do I get back? Well, what did the classroom feel like? What was its essence, the energy, the frequency, the sound, the whole package? And the minute I felt that whole smell, taste, sensation, I started that traveling thing again. And then pop, I'm sitting in the chair. Now my students on the other side, after a few minutes, I'm not speaking anymore. So they start opening their eyes. They look around the classroom. I'm gone. I have physically disappeared. They start walking around the classroom, going to the different, where's Doreen? They ask the secretary, did you see, like, she just disappeared. Then I reappear 20 minutes later in front of them. So I would say that those experiences are the most memorable.
Yeah, that's pretty unique. Is there things that you've kind of evolved with over the decades that you've been doing this, that things that you've been able to do much better, or you've, I don't know, kind of tuned into it more?
Maybe being human.
Okay.
That's quite the challenge.
And we'll be right back. Okay, and now back to the show. What do you think happens to us whenever we die? So if I'll just say that doing this podcast and meeting with so many different people that have unique views about what happens when you die. Because before I thought you were put in a box, you were cremated, and that was it. You were gone. Since doing this podcast, I no longer think that. So what do you think happens whenever we die?
Well, Zach, when I was born, I remembered all my past lives.
Oh, you did?
And more importantly, to answer that question, I remember my lives when I had no body and between. When I think of a past life, I remember it like a song. Some are country and western, yahoo!
Yeah.
Others like slow, sad songs. But when I connect to the frequency of the song, then the memory comes rushing through me of that life. I remember dying in each of those lives. If anything, I'd say the dying part always sticks out.
Yeah.
It's fairly traumatic. One minute you're in a body and the next minute you're standing next to your body looking at it. Then going through a process, which in our reality, I believe is around 10-day process, where you remember, live through everything you experience, the good, the bad, the right or wrong, and you judge yourself. Your feeling body is still part of this soul essence, and you come to a place either of peace or unrest. Now,
Okay.
if let's say it's a person who was a mass murderer, for example, during that phase, they will be in a form of prison where they are experiencing the people they killed, but now their bodies with worms crawling out, and so on and so forth, and up until they reach a place of penance, of seeking forgiveness and forgiving themselves, and understanding how they ended up being that person that could create that outcome in another. And eventually they will be freed from that prison, cleansed.
And are you able to connect with anybody you want to that's passed over?
Sometimes the reason is because most souls, when they leave the body, like I said, I remember, dying and looking at the body, and now there's such a disconnect. It's like, oh, okay, well, that's not who I am. So, hey, let's explore this world, right? And off you go. And some people reincarnate quite quickly. So now somebody might say to me, oh, I'd like to connect with my grandmother, but maybe your grandmother's already born in another body. So what are you really connecting with? There is this field that we can connect with. Some call it the Akashic records, that you can, it's like an echo though. It's not like that person is present to you when you're questioning that moment.
But if you wanted to connect with like your grandmother now without going back, if she has passed and left the earth as a ghost, and she's now, she's now in this field of energy is what I call it. Could you connect with her if you wanted to?
I would be connecting more with her memories, not her, because she's already been reborn.
Oh, she has been.
Mm.
Wouldn't it be interesting if you could find out who she is in this life?
Well, I suspect she has no memory, so I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it wouldn't matter then, but I think it would still be. I see these videos that are, on social media where these kids are young, like 2 or 3 years old, and they're coming back and they have their memories of their past lives. And they fought, and in this one family, the kid said that, I mean, he was literally like 2, 3, 4 years old. He was young. And he said the village that he lived in Europe, and the family took him there. And when he walked into this one establishment, he knew the people's names in there. It was so amazing. So it was just like that past life didn't actually leave. Like he had all those memories still, kind of similar to what you were saying.
When I was young, I remember asking my guides, like, why don't people remember their past lives? And the answer I got was because look at them. They can't deal with their present lives. Imagine if they did something horrible in their past life and now they're carrying that memory and those regrets and the pain and the suffering of that life. Most people can't deal. Like I said, they can't even deal with this life.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, actually. Do you think that like whenever we leave, and we come back, do you think it's always coming back to Earth? I've spoken to other guests that have said that Earth is just one place to go. You can go many other places. What is your thoughts on that?
Over 250,000 planets that do have life on them, and I've incarnated on many of them. So we do have a choice. Even before coming to Earth, you have that choice. Although when you create a lot of karma, you do have to return. I should mention that. So, we try to walk through life without creating karma.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you do have to resolve that karma. But, and it's the same with any planetary system you go on. And regardless of what body you're in, it's the same consciousness. So you feel the same. I mean, I remember being on Earth and being a tree. I still felt like me.
What were some of your other past lives that you remember?
We're talking thousands. So
give me one that's not on this planet. I think that'd be interesting to hear about.
I know I've lived in the Palladian star system, came to Earth at the time of the pyramids and was part of that. The thing is, I'm not sure that expressing or feeling into alternate lives are worth discussing, because there's also interdimensional lives, alternate slices that we exist in at this very moment on this planet. So there's so many multiple lives that you're having even now that stem out from who you are, that are created from your different thought forms, your different experiences, your different desires. So when I think of, say, my life in the Palladian galaxy or star system, I'm only thinking of one aspect. But because we ripple out from every moment, it's kind of limiting.
Yeah. Does time not really matter though, in a way? Like, so because our whole lives are kind of with a clock and calendar. That's it's how we do everything. But I've heard from other people that really, whenever you're doing, whenever your time isn't really as a big deal as people make it outside of this. Do you agree with that?
Time is a construct that humans have put together to be able to meet up and things like that. But just think of some great conversation you've had with someone, or great moments in a group, and you go, oh my God, look what time it is.
Yeah.
You weren't in time. Your consciousness stepped outside of this, what we call the sequence of time. And so many times people leave this perception that we're bound within. I mean, think of my experience where I was that Jewish man. I wasn't bound by time or space.
Mm-hmm.
So what is real?
Yeah. You think we'll get the answers when we die? Like we'll have more answers at that point?
In that moment, you understand that you're not the body, that you are the soul, or the angel, if you like. that has inhabited many bodies, many forms, male, female, animal, vegetable, insect, reptilian. The soul's journey is about experiencing, and it doesn't judge as one form better than another. So I think that becomes your greatest aha moment. Yes, understand why they've had those experiences.
So you kind of have two things that I feel like that you've helped people with. One, or not people, but just overall help. One is sounds like it's where you're freeing kind of trapped spirits and stuff, and the other one is you're helping people kind of heal, or you're awakening them to be their true selves. Which one do you like to do more? Which one makes you feel more satisfied?
He forgot herbs.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, because that is a love. I used to grow over 30 acres of herbs and medicinals, and then dry them and make different potions. So that is definitely a love. Then I can take, say, a particular herb and hold the essence or the energy frequency of it into the person's body. I don't know quite how to verbalize it, but I can see if that herb then resonates with the body, if the body is drawn towards it, or if it's rejecting it just through frequencies. I find that fun.
And what type of things have you kind of helped people with the herbs? Like, if were they, do they have a virus or everything?
Every disease you can think of. Yeah.
And are you still doing that?
I do. Yeah. I think I will the rest of my life. It is a love.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, do you offer that service to people?
In whatever direction somebody wants to go in. So whether it's to remove an entity that possesses them, whether it's because I feel like I'm like a magnet, like more like a microscope. I can zoom into different body parts and experience if they're stuck or stagnant, or then match an herb with it, or like I said, some movement or something they need to do or realize in order to move that energy. That's fun too. So there's many different ways that healing can take place. Sometimes it's just embodiment. I love talking to people about their soul and integrating their soul into their life.
And do you help people connect with people that have passed on in their life?
Not as much. I mean, I can. It's not really a love, mostly because I feel like they're messing around with an essence that's already moved on, and so now pulling that essence back for their benefit. I'm not sure if that's the right thing to do.
What do you think kind of in your experience, what's the single biggest thing that keeps people from awakening to who they really are most of the time?
Fear, worry, hate, greed, trying to keep up with, what they're told they should be or should do, stresses of life, living in the head, thoughts, self-rejection, beating yourself up, not good enough, smart enough, tall enough, short enough. My nose is too long or too short, right? It's that whole story that of ourselves, and that's the brain looking down at the body as though the body is an enemy. Whereas full integration, which is embodiment, is the healing path.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Okay, and now back to the show. Does the world that we live in does it scare you at all just because of all the madness that's happening in the world today? Or because like, I don't know, what happens after we leave? Does it not scare you? Like, how do you feel about today's world? I know that's kind of maybe a deep, very broad question, but I'd just be curious to know what your take on it is.
I love knowing absolutely everything that's going on. I can talk to you about chemtrails or any subject that is happening on this planet, because I do believe that knowledge is important in guiding ourselves and taking the right path. So I do pay attention, but none of it bothers me. Another way of wording it is you're sitting somewhere and there's dogs barking. You have two choices. The barking dogs can irritate the heck out of you. You start pacing as stupid dogs. What's the matter with that owner? Why doesn't it shut those dogs up? It's really driving, right? Okay, we can go that route. Or you can take a deep breath and understand that the dog's barking is your moment, that you're alive, and this is your gift. And so you allow the sounds to pass through you, not about you. It just is part of this moment. So what's going on in the world, it's part of this moment. I don't have a choice in it, but I do understand that it is stamping me in time in some way. It's all okay.
And if somebody, let's say that there's somebody listening to this and they feel trapped, they have an illness or something wrong with them. If they wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to go to your website?
Definitely Doreen Mary Bray. .com.
And I'll put a link into the description of this video or podcast for whoever would like to do. And if somebody wanted to talk with you about the herbs and they wanted you to help them with something that they have, a pain, an illness, a disease, can you do that over Zoom with them, or do they have to see you in person?
There was a time that I thought it had to be in person. I mean, let's face it, there is something about the energy transference, an in-person experience can change your resonance. But many years ago, I was contacted by some monks in the Himalayan mountains, and they needed healing help. And so I made a deal with them that I would send energy to them, each of them at different times. We set up a time. And after I did it, I would send them an email where I sent the energy, my experiences of it, where there was blockages, what I saw. Okay. And then they would experience it. And then they would send me an email back telling me their experience. And we made sure that, neither one knew what the other one was doing. I was amazed exactly what I was sending, the colors, and they were like fully present to it and was able to explain it exactly as I experienced it. So that was a gift for me to understand that there really is no time and space.
Yeah. But if somebody wanted an herb to help them with chronic pain, would you be able to help them over Zoom with that and send them the herb?
Of course, it would be first to understand, if they're on prescription meds, it's going to be a different herb.
Yeah.
Where the pain is, who are they as a person in the world. Sometimes it's our emotional body that's creating the problem and they just need to breathe into it. Sometimes the body is just trying to give the person a message that they're not hearing. There's many reasons why we have pain. Definitely, I would go to the root of it, and that whatever that experience is, I would be able to look at it through a deeper lens and then help them, whether it's verbal or whatever path.
But what like something major, like if somebody had cancer, would you be able to help them with that possibly too?
It's illegal for me to say I could.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that.
Okay, but I would say yes.
Okay.
But always check with their doctor first. And
okay. Yes. Okay. We'll do a disclaimer on this where I put it out. I get what you're saying now. That's true. I mean, has anybody ever wanted to kind of meet with you and study what you do or study you as a person and kind of understand more about this? I mean, I love it that the monks in the Himalayas came to you, but has anybody from a scientific or research background ever kind of contacted you? Because I think it would be so fascinating for people to look into some of this.
Not from a scientific background, but when I had school, then at that time, like I would be guiding my students to do something, and they would say to me, "Okay, but how?" And I'd say, I don't know. It just happens automatically with me. So then I'd have to quiet myself and say, okay, then I need to go within and see what pathways my system takes in order to have that experience. And then I could guide them to doing it. But other than that, and the students were able to do those practices after, which is good news.
So are you still teaching people?
I do. I teach online classes. I also teach classes in person. I have workshops, retreats. I don't do as many retreats these days, but weekend ones, yeah. Yeah, big meditations. I can get 50 to 100 people, big bonfire meditation. So I still am pretty active.
That's great. If you had kind of one wish for people in this world now, what would that wish be?
Embodiment, which means moving from the chaotic brain state into their body. Think of it this way. If you were a seedling, the first thing that would happen is you would grow deep roots into the ground, right? And once you were firmly grounded, then you would begin to sprout out. And as you're sprouting out, your roots below would also continue to grow. And to me, a whole human is that, where their roots are really deep. And then it allows them to grow. And as they grow, the roots grow deeper. And I would wish that for every human on this planet.
Yeah, that's nice. I have just a couple more questions. Can you ever stop reincarnating?
Well, first off, there's the karma glitch. It is a glitch. Okay. But otherwise, you have a choice. I believe I chose, because I do remember my life before this one in a non-physical state. I remember choosing to come. I remember choosing my parents, the situation, the religion, the country, my skin color, you name it. I made all of those choices before incarnating. So, like I said, if there's a karmic glitch, okay, you have to return because you have to pay off the karma. But if not, then you can choose to come back to Earth. In most cases, it's to help, to bring enlightenment, to help people to understand their own purpose and why they're here. So, and then you choose if you want to go to another planet, if you're not bound to return.
And other people that I've talked to in this field have said that Earth is actually one of the harder places to be at, and you end up learning a lot from here. But it's it's one of the harder places to reincarnate. Do you agree with that statement?
So, because there's multiple dimensions, there are multiple Earth experiences. Some are much lower, heavier, and denser than others. You can have an Earth experience where you're in much higher vibrational states. And I do believe that we either you'll choose a lower, denser Earth experience to bring light. Some, though, choose a higher dimensional experience because they just want to grow more in that essence.
Yeah. And sorry, I have so many. I could talk to you for like 4 hours about this stuff. So my other question is that do you think that we reincarnate with the same people? Because I've done a past life regression, hypnotism, and people that are in my life today were in this other life with me, or the two previous lives that I only got to two previous lives in this past life regression. And in one of them, there was people that are in my life today were part of that life. Do you think that that's common, where we're coming back reincarnated with the same people or the same souls or spirits?
You ever see butterflies, how they, will fly up into the air?
Yeah.
Like, okay, that's how we are with souls. We will return and spin around each other, playing different roles. You might be a mother in one and another, and the father in another, but those souls are playing out these different roles, mostly to heal karmic glitches. Also, because there's this familiarity, souls will gravitate towards like frequencies, or they are trying to bring a denser frequency into more light frequency. So we all have our purposes, but you can gravitate around hundreds of souls that, so each lifetime you will re-experience them. Some of them will just be acquaintances. Some of them will be just a 1 second meeting, but it changes you forever. So yes, we will do that.
Cool. That's pretty cool. What's one message you want to leave for my listeners before we end? Because just if they want to contact you is a good one, but what's kind of your message to them?
Sorry, message to who?
Just the people listening to this episode. Like if you had to give them some advice or guidance, like what would your guidance or advice be?
I would say if you're in your head, you are dead to truth, because you're only spinning a story that doesn't exist. You're not present now. So you're robotic. The faster you speak, the faster you move, the more you're in your head and not in your body. Being embodied means where you pay attention to even your legs and feet, because they all are sentient and have messages and can guide you. Every cell has been created to monitor the environment for your safety, to help you understand where you are in the heavenly bodies, all the way down to your cellular bodies. Just like a duck or a goose knows where north and south is, our cells can guide us. That's their purpose. But the head overrides what the cells know. So if anything, I'd say find ways to ground yourself, become that seedling, root yourself deeply in yourself. That's what, deeply grounding in self is the most important thing anyone can do.
Mm. Good advice. Well, thank you so much for being on. I think, like I said, I could talk to you for a few days, I think, actually, not just a couple of hours, because I think you've got some interesting experiences, and I just think that overall it's fascinating to me. So I love these type of conversations.
Thank you, Zach, and I'm willing to return anytime.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could do a follow-up, and I wrote some notes down. I don't think I even got to the first few. I only got through, so we could have more conversations in the future. So thank you so much for being on. I appreciate it, and now we'll put your website and the description of this video or podcast so people can check it out and they can come in and get in contact with you. So thank you so much for being on.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate you too. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.